Since my initial video of this back in 2012, I had a chance to revisit a lot of my videos and several other contents that I've done than ever before. So a lot of my statements that I've done in those videos, like I've said in multiple update videos, including a redux of an old video I did since 2012, since then has completely changed, and whatever I said initially probably doesn't seem to stand up to the test of time, since it's been 5 years at the time of this video's creation and recreation, since this is of course a redux video. Despite that, I still don't like this character, and especially what I've done with him, and I will not hold back on why I dislike it. The only problem that I have with the AJ Weems character is that this is where I really need to come in and explain to you guys what has been going on behind the scenes. Now, for those who may know, it's been now at the time of this video's recording, it's been over 7 years since I've started these Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan films, and for the most part, it's been also 7 years since my 12th grade year in high school at the time when I even started this stuff. And so, as time has passed, a lot of things have changed over the last 7 years. At the time of this fan film's creation, and as well as when I started my pursuit and passion and commitment and dedication on the project. So a lot of things just don't really stand up well to the test of time, so this explains why that is. You see, the character of AJ was, for the most part, like I said last time, Gary Stu. And you see, when you write fan fiction of any franchise, whether if it's a Harry Potter fanfic, Lord of the Rings fanfic, a Family Guy fanfic, a SpongeBob fanfic, or Star Trek fanfic, or heck, even Power Rangers, those kind of fanfics, if you got like Gary Stu fanfics, or Mary Sue fanfics, those are the ones that are extremely and egregiously meant to be avoided, because nobody wants to see someone do a self-insert of you, in a story, interfering the plot that you came up with, even if it has bad writing and bad, whatever, plot structure and blah blah blah. That's exactly one of the reasons why people won't root you for such kind of thing. And in this case, hardly every Power Rangers fanfic that I probably found on particular fan fiction forum sites or whatever I don't recall any author behind a fanfic of Power Rangers would come up with the Gary Stu character, because at least Power Ranger fans who do fan fiction have common sense not to do Gary Stu or Mary Sue writing or self-insert writing. But it seems like I'm the only one in the vocal minority that did one. And that's why in this Redux Morphin Grid case study archive of a character I did, in terms of the fan film of the Rise of Trakeena, which of course at the time now has been abandoned, but yet brought back in time for this new renaissance of the Marchverse of Power Rangers fan films. I want to go straight off from the bat what has gotten into me over the course of 7 years. And I know I've said enough about that already throughout podcasts, vlogs, or anything I post on Facebook about this stuff, since after all, 7 years has been passed, and oh my god, I'm so frozen in time, oh my god, I'm still in high school, still working on this project when I'm out in the real world, even into this stance on YouTube, and I'm still stuck like it's 2011 or whatever all over again. Sure, whatever I did back in those days were, well, at least I tried, and at least I put effort, and I was committed to the project, much like my current projects. You see, part of the reason why I have some sort of a painstaking nostalgia for doing this fan film, and as well as creating a character based allegedly after me, was due to the fact that I was trying to, I think for the longest time, like I've said many times before, I was pretty much coming off like an attention-seeking whore in this fandom community of Power Rangers, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think I am one of the most hated fans in the fandom, even though nobody has never even spoken to me that often, unless if it's only a few people I've heard of that have made references and remarks and as well as responses and references to me through different websites websites related to Power Rangers and its fandom community, whether if it's Ranger Board, the Ranger Wiki, Rick on the Onyx Tavern for his I Like Lost Galaxy video that he posted back in 2014 following his comeback on YouTube, Shiggs' video response to me when it came to his response to my response to Linkara's history of Power Rangers on a particular season that nobody likes, and so on. So there's not that many people that had made references or whatever to me, even though of course I'm not one of those of the vocal minorities, and yes, I am completely, even for 7 years straight in the fandom, is an absolute nobody. Like the character of AJ, just a group of nobodies, or just one nobody that nobody wants to mess with. And in fact, this is why Gary Stu's and Mary Sue's and fan fictions are, excuse me for a moment, not supposed to be the kind of characters that people don't want to, read about or even see on screen. Hey, think of all the accusations and allegations about the character of Rey in Star Wars The Force Awakens being a Mary Sue. Sure, as much as I like The Force Awakens to a degree, the thing is when you have a Gary Stu or Mary Sue character, they do eat up the screen time, or, story time away from other characters, and then they all do come off jarringly annoying. And in this case, in terms of this character that I played in a fan film based on a Power Ranger season that I've now spent 7 years on, which is, well, hell and back. Now it's now taken me, for those who remember back when I was in high school working on the project and beyond, it has now taken me 7 years to get to the damn point to tell you guys straight up what the hell has been going on and why those things have been happening. As a matter of fact, at the time of this video as well, I definitely despised my time of playing a character based after me and playing myself off if I was a Power Ranger in my own fanfic. And which is definitely one of the worst things that I would ever do. As a matter of fact, my dad was right, and as well as some of the things he said back then. Again, when I did this video originally in 2012, he was alive, of course. But even long before that, when I started this channel and everything, he did mock me. Like I said, he did mock me for, for the fact that about me self-inserting myself as a yellow Power Ranger because, well, we'll get to that when we do the redux and whatever I said in the original video, but re-recorded for new audiences. And rest assured, if you're following along for this for the first time, I really want to ensure to you guys this is what the heck has been happening. Now, I know many of you don't care about the fanfic that I do, but you guys have to understand what I did initially was pure self-insert Gary Stu territory. So lately in these new films that I've done, it's not completely Gary Stu territory, but unless some fan will probably accuse me of saying that Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 2014 or the upcoming Rise of Trakeena are also Gary Stu stories, but they are not Gary Stu stories. I understand that fandoms have to stay away from fan fiction as much as possible because they'll dread that the entire fanfic will probably revolve around some author's fantasy of, if they were this character having a relationship with this character and they had sex and then had bad writing and grammar or just bad act, or in a fan film's case, bad acting and writing overall, because, that's how fandoms go, because there has to be constructive criticism behind the work because they need to know what the heck has been going on and why the author did this or why the author did that, or if you're doing a fan film, why did you shoot this? Why did you shoot that? That it comes to the result why those things happen and why people have to be complete, negative Nancy's. In fact, almost every fandom you come to, unless if you're not a fan of something particular in a fan base, even if it's something committed and dedicated to a particular TV show, a movie, video game, comic book, etc., you're going to end up winding up seeing fans from a particular fan base end up being, negative Nancy's of something. And even if they know something that may be is completely disregarded from the source material. Now, to slow things up a bit, that's just how I put it this way. Now, the fan film is a disaster. The idea behind it was compromised, but I'll discuss that in a future, featurette video, part of the Redux videos that I've done, including what I've had in store for my first Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film, which, well, of course, some of the things I did there as well for that fan film project also needs to be, you know, rejustified to what I originally did or what I originally said back then. So yeah, so let's go through it as I drudge through looking back on what I've done with this character. And if I think something that is dumb about what I did, I'm calling it dumb. And if it's something that I should have never put in the fan film that was stupid, I'm calling it stupid. But enough of that, let's get on with the character. Let's talk about AJ. As soon as you knew I was going to do a Morphin grade case study on one of the characters I once upon a time played and done a voice of in my initial fan film of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, The Rise of Trakeena, that in which I abandoned 5 years ago, July 20th, 2012. December 21st, if you count the original upload of this. By the way, it was split into 4 parts. This is my former character's Morphin grade case study on my original character. Yes, by the way, is a part of fan fiction, but it also never guessed it would be self-insertion. If I was the Yellow Ranger from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, AJ was the first but actually non-canon Yellow Power Ranger in the Marshverse to be a, not to be racist, African-American person in a yellow suit. It's not that obvious that in the Sentai Lost Galaxy adapted from, same implied for the Sentai counterparts, male for Trini, Kelsey, Taylor, and Katie from Mighty Morphin, Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, and Wild Force. My Sentai counterpart was male, but it's obvious that the reason Power Rangers for the first 10 seasons until Power Rangers Wild Force made those male yellows to be female in the American shows is because Saban wanted 2 females on the team, and so the show can not only target to young boys and men, but young girls and women as well. So that way there wouldn't be any tension of sexism between the males on each team versus the limited females on each team as well. I mind that in Disney seasons like Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder, and RPM in the TV show continuity, like the rest of all the TV shows, but when you have an older Saban season like Lost Galaxy, you can probably wonder why couldn't they make the Yellow Galaxy Ranger a man like in the Sentai. So that's where I came in for my standalone non-canonical fan series reboot blah 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 of the source material. I know my character probably seemed to cause a lot of some controversy despite the fact that I made a male Yellow Ranger to be African American. In the past, when I did the Rise of Trakeena fan film, apparently my initial casting of characters had not one but 2 African Americans serving on the same Ranger team. And by the by, my version of the Green Ranger from Lost Galaxy is still a black man, but it's still odd looking back on my Gary Stu character of a lame duck Power Ranger. Having myself as a character really has put me to shame, even to this day as a fan. Hear me out. I pretty much did make AJ a bit too much like me back when I had quote-unquote psychological issues. During this exact same time frame at the time back then when I was dealing with what was going on in the world and how I was not coping well or adjusting to the times now after, you know, whatever, with those who were around me at that point. Having those quote-unquote graduation blues really had me psychologically crippled, and since then, 7 years later, I had not been right in the head since. Pretty much since then, this is why I spent 5 years at this point, at the time of the original video, of course, trying to find my presence on YouTube, and as well as showcasing my passion for Power Rangers, but not trying to be some kind of super fan like in those of Saban's Power Force. Well, this is what I get for drawing too much attention for almost a decade with this now. Looking back on AJ, however, I come to realize I made him out to be a Gary Stu in my fan story of the abandoned Rise of Trakeena fan film, which people then, and probably still now, made fun of and ridiculed me for making such a crappy character. And actually, they never did comment about the character, but that's a figure of speech here. I have come to realize what I tried to do at this point, and I have to realize that nobody cares for fan fiction. They only care for what is part of main canon and continuity from what you see from particular sources, TV and film and whatever. The fanfic of Lost Galaxy I've done was purebred Gary Stu territory, revolving yours truly, at this point, which accumulates to the sinful staples of bad fan fiction. Slapping myself into the story. making one of my favorite villains as a sex object. I have to admit, in it, me being an overly aggressive, unsympathetic, unhappy, miserable, pitiful, overpowered asshole, inserting most events of what was going on during my 12th grade senior year in high school. Oh my god, this is Sonichu 2.0, but with Power Rangers. Where do I begin here? In comprehension of AJ, that is. I have never done this before. If I created a YouTube channel of past and proposed Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film projects that I want to share to what was going on, why those never made it, but sadly, that were going to happen, but sadly were unfulfilled. The ones before the Rise of Trakeena, the 2014 reboot, and Wrath of Trakeena, I would have showed off the paper dolls of the characters that I made and used for those films before the ones I've done since 2010 to this point now. Of course, what I got here is a puppet, according to the original video, of myself if I was the Yellow Ranger. Mr. Gary Stu asshole Yellow Ranger, if you will. Me that was. Looking back again, I have to admit, it was ridiculous self-inserting myself in the Yellow Galaxy Rangers costume. Pretty much yellow, even in retrospect, is just not my color. I have to accept now, at the time of this re-record of the original video, that it's not much of a problem now than it was then. Back then, a couple of people online, including my deceased father, like I said in the beginning of this video, had made jokes about me wearing what was traditionally a girl's color when it comes to Power Rangers. Yellow!
My dad can't stand me wearing the color yellow. He says yellow makes me look gay.
I'm not implying like I want to come out as gay or anything. I don't have nothing against LGBT individuals or any kind. Just saying is, and wondering why I said that though. There is no such authenticity of confirmation about me in real life being gay. Now, I would say the AJ, the character, might be gay simply because it might be a callback to the fact that the 5 Sentai Yellows that Mighty Morphin through Wild Force were based on were men with, of course, based on the source footage, with, of course, dicks. Well, I made this as a what if I remade Lost Galaxy and if the team had a guy in the yellow suit to begin with. I would have done the same thing for the other 3 female Yellow Rangers after Maya in the same process, but no, I can't outright rewrite the history of Power Rangers like that, because then otherwise fans would outright deliberately hate me for it. If it was a risk I had to take. You see, also back then, I know I've been saying this over and over. I know that's repetitive. While I was self-inserting myself as a yellow Power Ranger for my fanfic and fan film story, I was having feelings of, I hate to say this, anxiety, insecurity, and shame of wearing the color. I didn't know where my head was back in the early 2010s when I did something like this. I just didn't know my dad, who at the time is now dead, but was alive when I made the original video of this and others until his death in 2015. To think I would come out as a have him think that I would come out as a fruitcake, cosplaying papercraft wise as the Yellow Ranger. Hell, he made a retrospective joke about that with Ninja Storm and Mystic Force's Yellow Rangers, but at least their Sentai counterparts were male, and at least they matched the gender of their own characters from their own Sentai footage. After all these years of me watching Power Rangers growing up for like the past 24 years, as of this new season, Ninja Steel and Saban's reboot movie in 2017, but 20-some years as of Super Samurai 2 Megaforce in late 2012 to 2013, at the time of the original video, there has mainly been a lot of females as Yellow Rangers throughout the franchise's history. Now look, I'm not sounding to be sexist or anything, or super uber jealous of the fact that women are the Yellow Rangers and most of the time in our version, and less of men like in Sentai. You've seen a lot of them, you've seen lots of them in yellow because the show needs to support the female characters they made present in the franchise. Rangers, villains, etc. Female. Now, like I said in the original video, I don't mean to be that harsh with these kind of statements that come to play in this video, part of my ongoing passing knowledge of the franchise and its Japanese show predecessor. I know what I said in the original video there, saying I hardly seen a guy wear yellow even in real life. Power Rangers have had a lot of female yellows over the years, while there have been only like, what, 5 of them being male if you count Calvin from the current Ninja Steel season right now. Male yellows being Tidius, the Ranger from the Equation team, the Alien Ranger team. Dustin, the SPD A Squad one, I forgot his name. Chip and Calvin. Female yellows like Trini, Aisha, Tanya, Ashley, Maya, Kelsey, Katie, Taylor, Kira, and so on. My self-insert OC Galaxy Ranger, on the other hand, is male. Well, no duh. For my Mergeverse fan series, previously known as the Galactic Military Police Defenders, I wanted to make my Yellow Ranger be a male. I know it's not right. Considering if I'm going to do fan fiction of PRLG, Yellow needs to be a girl, and also brunette. Just like in the source material, like most fans remember it. I'm at the point where I'm like, the source material. Who that being that jungle girl from Miranoi in the Prime Power Rangers TV continuity in my version of it, in favor of this bastard of a self-insert ass fuck of a Gary Stu. Anyway, back in July of 2010, before I even made Power Rangers Lost Galaxy The Rise of Trakeena, apparently, I originally instated that my AJ character acts more like me in real life, who is a rebellious, aggressive, pissy, careless, dishonest, immature, antisociable, hissy fit attitude carrying son of a. Don't take that lightly, folks. That's just how it was originally described, because it was, again, this is one of the reasons why people just don't like bad fan fiction. And I can't believe I made a really crappy fanfic back then when I was at the age of 18. And I was still a teenager then. Does being 18 still count you as a teenager still? I hardly don't think in this day and age. In my thoughts in retrospect, the character, not the real me, you don't know who I truly am in real life. After sort of cleaning up my suffering of depression then, still have depression now, so it's going to be okay to get through it, even though things can get tough. I struggled with it before, and like that since my middle school years in real life. I want to return to my love for Power Rangers while the fandom had its then recent resurgence following Saban's reacquisition of the franchise in mid-2010 after my bouts with my life, which has nothing to do with Power Rangers or its fandom and fan base, and what was going on between that point from 2006 to 2010, talking from my personal experience here, until my depression and other so-called psychological issues got worse over time after 2011 to this point. So I decided to think about this character, rethinking back on him, who evidently would be this quote-unquote self-insertion of a character based on me if I was a Power Ranger. In the meantime, I was publishing a final draft for the script of Rise of Trakeena, which would, of course, later have those constant hellish amount of rewrites after rewrites after rewrites after rewrites after rewrites during its initial production stages before I eventually canceled and abandoned it on the day 5 years ago, because it was going absolutely nowhere. Due to the amount of rejections from people that I initially wanted to do character voices, a false release date for 2011, false belief of a so-called quote-unquote promotion for the fan film on the Ranger Wiki, and so on. Since then, I have been too obsessed with this so-called piece of crap fan film for the last 7 freaking years. And that's why I pretty much had it disappear from off the face of the fandom and the internet, and just also had me and that fanfic pretty much disappear for a while. I was then, in the meantime, again, while finishing that final draft of the script so I can get production underway as soon as possible to have a fan film out in time for 2011, when I did start the Rise of Trakeena, I was at the quote-unquote at the top of my game from the ground up. Great, now I'm talking that Chris Chan-like nonsense, minus the quote-unquote boyfriend-free girl part though. But I can't keep telling you the same details about why did I want to make it the way I wanted to, but it wasn't going to work. That in which I had over-explained erroneously over and over for the last 5 years now in this channel, and it's really starting to get boring and stale from here. Beforehand, I wanted actors of African American descent like I am, For fan casting that were younger than me when they were teen actors like Lee Thompson Young until his death in 2013. RIP. Who I originally wanted, again, in fan casting to be this male Yellow Ranger in one of my bygone, unproduced, unmade, proposed fan film attempts of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy I have made from the past decade, which never saw the light of day, of course, due to, issues I had in the past. Thompson Young, the actor who was the star of Disney Channel's The Famous Jet Jackson from back in the late 90s till 2002 until his death in 2013 from apparent suicide, but was working on the TNT drama Brazilian Isles before then, would be my first choice. But again, I never thought of it. Then came my other fan casting choice for this character, actor Tyler James Williams, the former Everybody Hates Chris star, to be in likeness of AJ's character in the film back in February 2010, but something came up. Next, I tried Chris Brown. Wait a minute, that guy sucks. Oh, and there was one more actor fan cast choice, Shad Moss, aka Bow Wow. I kind of did wanted Williams, Young, or Brown, either one of them, but I decided to be in it myself. I wanted to have a big break. I wanted to be someone that people would be admired by. But of course, it backfired later on down the road. I'm tired of being so abandoned, alone, and isolated from the world, like I said in the original video, blah blah blah. Well, actually, when I made the film, when it never got completed though, because graduation, stresses of pushing to be in the harsher world and whatever blah, I didn't have enough support for me to do the film, so I was ignored. Lots of ignorance and also left isolated from the world. But look what would happen as time came about, and look where I'm at now. They felt that I was a nobody. In fact, I'm still a nobody now, so what you gonna do? I was a ghost, like I didn't even exist. It was like I don't exist in society, like I'm some manic pixie such and such boy or some crap. I'm in front of a camera, behind on some occasions, like I said in the original video. But people act like I don't even know who the hell am I. Like I said time and time again, nobody knows me. Like I said in the original video, it sounded like a complete downer for doubts for some reason. In fact, they don't have to, because, whatever I said in the original video, that's the thing, blah, blah. You can tell back in the original video like this, I was really coming off like a really doubtful, pessimistic punk, that's pretty much who I am. But here I am 5 years later re-recording all this crap. Now, if I went into public and did a public promotion for this non-legit, non-profit, non-commercial movie project, then fan movie project, then they would grow an awareness of me and find out who the man that put this together, this mitigated piece of not so watchable. Actually, scratch that. As a figure of speech, people are gonna think of me as I'm not real, when really I am real, even if I haven't accomplished anything per se in life career-wise. Sorry for all the basic stuff you don't need to know, since I've rambled on and on too much about this in the original video, but let's get to the point. My character was, well, the way how he was developed, if you put it that, despite he was obviously the first but such blah 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 fan-made Yellow Power Ranger to be a African American and is male. He has this sort of ghetto attitude, stereotypically. AJ, well, as I mentioned before, is pretty much of a pessimist. He's basically a pessimistic Power Ranger. Always hoping for something and some bad days in life to go badly for him. AJ, despite that he was my OC, he is so downbeat. In the original version of this video, I said upbeat. If I meant upbeat, that would mean positivity and optimism, not downbeat, which is negativity and pessimism. He's always been lonely inside, like I am in real life, obviously translating to lone wolf. He's always been a jerk, always been greedy. He's always been so full of himself. New thing I like to add that I didn't add in the original video: he's too rebellious and careless. May I go on? He's always been, well, he's always had problems, like I had back in real life when I did this kind of thing. One thing I may also add that I never mentioned as much in the original video, that he is, again, like me in real life, has been antisociable and has issues. If I released any leaked, scrapped, and shelved footage of the Rise of Trakeena where AJ becomes the Yellow Ranger, and there would be a convoy scene between him and my Marshverse Red Ranger Tony Marshall, that would be nice. Now, before I canceled the fan film in July 2012, because of personal reasons, prior and creative difficulties, this convoy scene that was scrapped at some sort of ending would have had AJ betray Tony and the other Rangers during a battle with Trakeena, with AJ joining forces with Trakeena after disbanding himself from being a Power Ranger, a la similar to like how Seth Rollins destroyed and betrayed the Shield in favor of the Authority in WWE back in 2014. But this video was made 2 years before that ever happened. Following AJ's betrayal of the Power Rangers in the Marshverse universe, by the way, that would be where the events of my first fan film reboot of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy and the Marshverse as a whole would take place. Rebooting the Lost Galaxy era, start the series over in this new timeline made by one fan, and that meshes Lost Galaxy's place in Power Rangers continuity with my fan series. I know I should have never done that, hence that's why not many people in like my reimagining of the series. The Zeon Empire would come in as the main villains to begin with Scorpius and Trakeena's army, and whatever villains I'll have in this timeline and continuity come in much later for a Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 3. Zeon Empire invades Miranoi and destroys the planet and kills the original Galaxy Rangers in this timeline. Killed with the original Lost Galaxy Rangers killed alongside the Terra Venture civilians from that universe dead in this new timeline, so on. So at this rate, the Rise of Trakeena was basically a fan film sort of pilot of what did become of my Power Rangers Marshverse series. Lost Galaxy as of now. In reimagining, which makes sense. After all, it has taken me 7 years to get the film off the ground at the time of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy: The Wrath of Trakeena, after being in long, dreadful stages of development hell. Anyway, that convoy scene, however, sadly was never filmed, but it was in mind since I didn't give the film any sort of conclusion, as I scrapped and abandoned that project in favor, of course, what would become the fan film reboot that I promised fans for a 2014 release. Which, by the way, looking back now, is awful. Much awful. I didn't have any of that footage for the Rise of Trakeena that I could show off on YouTube, even though I had ceased production doing it back in July because, like I said, I was alone prior to videos from before. I had kept saying it, talking and blabbering about Rise of Trakeena, knowing that it's a non-existent Power Rangers fan film, but personally, in my own opinion, even though I made it horrid, bland, dry, messy fanfic. Well, at first. When knowing I had created posters, very crappy in today's standards, by the way, even though I did have this vivid imagination back when I had a vivid imagination doing something, and I was productive, but now I'm like too busy doing stuff that I wanted to be a real thing, so people, those in the fandom community around the internet, can be aware that it would exist because I made this film. But of course, no budget or money is behind the project or future ones. So pretty much likely the Rise of Trakeena fan films fanfic concept was, well, my concept of this was like how Amit Bombic Scorpion Rain hoax throughout the Power Rangers fandom. But again, I'm no greater than what Amit Bombic did. Remember, what I'm doing with these films, for those unaware now by my and the film's existence, is these films are standalone spin-off fan films from the source material, whereas, in other words, not to be in any correlation with the TV show continuity or its canon. I do this stuff just to have fun and entertain people if they are not dedicated or adverse fans of what I do and what I've done. But 5 years later, as of this redux of the original video, I have gained some of those fans. Anyway, his character, on the other hand, this is a slight problem. if not major one, if you will. I think I kind of have, actually, when I did do the film, I didn't really make a script. I did the fan film without one. Only the plot line, that being the screen story for the film and not a screenplay, which contains dialogue, action, character actions, etc., in which I wrote for a week way back in spring 2010 in handwriting and notebook paper, which was also spread into 5 to 10 sheets. It was during my final year in high school as a student in, first time ever mentioning this in a Redux or newer video, Gaithersburg High School during the 2010-2011 school season, blah, 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 video production, blah, 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 fan film, blah, 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 Trakeena, blah, 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 whatever. I didn't have enough time to write a script. I didn't even have enough time to do storyboards. I had initially bull rushed the film within less than 6 months in production before my graduation would be upon me the following June of 2011. So I had to do the film without a script, without storyboards, without whatever I had else to come in mind in my arsenal to make this happen. As of 2017, however, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy: The Wrath of Trakeena has now taken me 2 years of my time to film between the end of 2015 to June of this year to shoot. Unlike Rise of Trakeena, which took me forever, that's why I had to, well, abandon it. At least with Wrath, unlike Rise, Wrath I had time and effort to put into it as I took things slower than last time. Filming on that, however, was recently irregular as I was very much, as of 2016, was adjusting to a then recent life change and other personal events, which struck me so hard. The first quarter of filming The Wrath of Trakeena was difficult to do with little to no time to do it over the course of those adjustments. By this year, I got back ahead to finish overtime. Right now, I'm in the middle of reshoots. At the time of this video, anyway. Not everyone is perfect, you know. Everyone has flaws and imperfections. Looking back on my original progress 7 years later, you can tell I was trying way too hard to make this like it was going to be some badass blockbuster fan film or something, when later down the road, the project lost its luster and momentum because my then constant obsessions and fascinations over the project. Trakeena being one of them, and the casting of Trakeena for someone who would play her, who should back at the time do her voice, when knowing maybe if I were to have the confidence back then enough, maybe if I were to have the confidence to do all that work on my own and then wouldn't have to worry or want some others to participate providing additional voice work on some characters while I was doing everything else accordingly. You know, it kind of would have made sense. I have been for the longest time too attached to this project and altered and alienated those of my friends and family because of my obsession over making something that I knew seemed well on paper when I started in actuality it started to spiral out of control, and I have had trouble breaking the vicious cycle since. Part of the reason was due to my dwelling and ongoing nostalgia of the Power Rangers season that I have been a fan of for so long. Sure, I liked In Space as a kid because it was the season that ended the Zordon era and a major turning point into the franchise. But I loved Lost Galaxy when I was a kid, more when I was a kid, and still today as an adult because of the things they pulled off that was very ambitious for the time that I would have never witnessed a show catered to kids like Power Rangers, and with Lost Galaxy being one of those seasons that pulled risks and chances of doing the impossible that past seasons In Space had never done, such as the death of a Power Ranger on screen, an on-screen child death, a Ranger ripping his shirt off, a villain going full kamikaze, sending his or her whole entire army of foot soldiers strapped in bombs, blowing up an entire city in a series finale, and all that was before 9/11 was even a thing.